Hello and welcome. Welcome back, actually, to OpenForum. This is a chance for you to delve deeper into the C word, consultancy. I'm Charlie Charlton. It's desperate to say that, isn't it? And after spending almost 20 years broadcasting with the BBC, this is my chance to just have a nosy into people's jobs and guide you through what is their world, their real world, and find out if it's something that you'd like to explore further. So in this case, it might be that you're taking that leap or considering taking that leap from in-house into consultancy. So how does it work? What's a typical day like with a client? What control do you have? That's something that comes up quite a bit. Maybe career development, support, teamwork. We're going to get to grips with all of it right now. So these sessions are run a few times a year by Opencast, the tech consultancy. I think they're a really good way to find out a lot of crucial information. It's better to have it in a conversation instead of reading reams and reams of text. So we are in front of a live audience. They can do better. We're in front of a live audience. Yeah, they're at work. It's at Opencast headquarters here on the on-trend Holts Yard in Newcastle, and we're also streaming live on Zoom. So if you want to get involved in the conversation, all you need to do is use the chat button. And any questions for the panel, you just put your questions on there. The team are looking across it. It can be a tricky business making that leap as well. So if you want to stay anonymous, just let the team know. There is absolutely no problem at all. This session is also being recorded. So just to let you know, the only people appearing on that will be myself and the panel as well. And I'm going to let you know later on how to actually watch this conversation again, how to reach out to the team at the end as well, because maybe you'll want to know what jobs are available right now at Opencast. Not only here in Newcastle, but of course there are hubs in London and Leeds and Edinburgh, as well as on site with your clients. And because this is a long-term provider of hybrid working, how's about your new job just being in the comfort of your own home? So let's get started. We have a brilliant panel today, each of them with a unique story to tell, and each doing very different consultancy work with some surprising twists along the way. So we're going to learn a lot about this world. Are you ready? Are you ready? Yeah! First, let's introduce Pete Smith. He's a man. Okay, he is a senior software consultant. I don't think you've ever walked into a room and had the whoops there, Pete, but tell us about a senior software consultant for yourself. What do you see that role as?
Well, I see my job as going into somewhere like DWP, some of the government services, some of the other places we do consultancy, to really kind of drive that client to get the right product for them and to be there to support that as an expert in that development field as well.
Now, the thing about you is that you spent more than a decade in-house with a firm that you adored. You had basically a family around you. Things changed there, and then you made this leap to Opencast. So can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Of course, yeah. So I was there for just under 11 years. It was a in-house development. We did selling software products, generally with license fees, and we got bought out. So we now, it's in the past. Maybe 5 years ago now, the company was sold, and then the leadership changed, and that kind of really lost the family appeal that it used to have. A lot of people were there because of the people we were working with, because we enjoyed working with those people and the kind of benefits that family culture had to making you want to stay in a workplace that wasn't necessarily the best and was declining more and more as we saw the more corporate world coming into play.
So then, Opencast. But you could have turned to pretty much any tech consultancy. What was it attracted you about here?
Well, in some regards, I did turn. So I broadcast my CV across to some of the major players as well, Capgemini, Accenture. But the selling point of Opencast is that hope of getting that family feel again. And in my lucky position, I knew quite a few people here already across different areas of the company and was able to kind of extract that information out of them and via Glassdoor, sites like that, to kind of let you know that there is a real culture for being included, that community spirit, and somewhere to feel like it's home again.
Were you nervous though? I mean, you'd been within a company, you knew the way things worked, you felt very comfortable there. And here you are potentially, I imagine one of the preconceptions about consultancy is you were just out there on your own.
Exactly, I'm terrified of that to an extent. I mean, it's that whole idea that you're going to be put out there and left alone. And Opencast really isn't that company. They'll give you the support that you need and make sure you're not out of your depth. It's like taking a good account of what skills they actually have and putting me on a client where I can really drive their product for the right thing that I see it as being, and having that support network where anything I don't know, I can turn to my family, as we're calling it here, inside the company and get that support.
And that element of the client actually listening to you and then following through with the idea that you have. So there's an element of control there. Is that something that you didn't have experience of before, or you were surprised you could still continue that?
I think it's certainly the driving point behind me wanting to be in consultancy, because it takes a long time to earn that as a development in-house, getting that power to say, actually, I've got some weight to my experience here. I can tell you what the right decision might be, or at least lead you down a direction together. And it takes time to build up that rapport in an in-house software place. You kind of need to have that experience and show that experience. But coming into a consultancy where they're paying, for my opinion, for me to be on site as an expert, they really feel the need to listen and to take that to heart when I do speak.
Now, let's have a little bit of a chat about your client, because you come into a consultancy, you can't really pick and choose as such. So how do you know if that match is right?
I think that's a tough question. I think one of the beautiful things about Opencast is that feeling like we are getting to pick and choose a bit. So I had certain stipulations myself coming into Opencast about what I wanted to do to make it feel like, ethically the right choice of work. So I was a big believer in wanting to be behind some government work, and was lucky enough to get matched up with a client where I could do that work where I felt it was in a positive light.
That client is DWP. Yeah, so quite a considerable amount of stuff to get your teeth into. Can you give us an example of some of the projects you've been able to do?
Yeah, so it's a very exciting project I'm working on at the minute is Legacy Bridge, where we're taking a monolithic database and trying to convert that to modern world events. And that is a wonderful thing to be part of, because it's really cutting edge kind of stuff and something that everybody's going to be wanting to do in the near future. But few people have, had the confidence to take that leap and actually make that move towards that different structure.
Did you not feel intimidated by that? So you've got a monolithic database, and there's you trying to transform this, and it's something that's going to impact on everybody.
I think that's partly a developer's mindset. You'd break things down into a logical problem, and then bit by bit work through it. And I think, Opencast has that big selling of TDD, where we do exactly that at a kind of a minor detail level, but also on a bigger picture scale.
Having the power and clients that listen to you, you said you found that refreshing. And yet it was something you probably didn't imagine beforehand. So if there's somebody listening right now and thinking, oh, it's happened for you, where's a guarantee it could happen for me?
I think you just really need to understand that consultancy is more than just about getting somebody in to do the development work. It's not about having somebody there to sat and churn out code. They're paying for people to come in with that experience to kind of drive the product to the right end result. And to do that, you have to listen to the people. So it kind of an inbuilt guarantee when you come into a place like a challenger consultancy such as Opencast, that you're going to get that opportunity.
You like having your hands on the code, though. So what about the future? Look at you like, yeah, give me that code. But what about the future? I mean, development opportunities, how do they lie at Opencast?
It's an exciting place at the minute for that, I would say. I think Juan will probably tell you a little bit more about that when he gets the chance. But yeah, it's, we're a growing company and really on the up and up. And that's giving us the chance to kind of build the company we want with the roles that we want people to have. We want people to have the opportunity to do the things they like doing, that they're good at doing, and to feel like they've got a place here to do that.
And let's talk lastly about the family impact, because you left somewhere that really felt like that. Yes, you joined people from your old firm, but we're working in times of, you know, post-pandemic, still extreme hybrid working. You're a little bit in with the clients. The office is not going to be packed with people. Is that actually possible to recreate that family feeling?
Yeah, and I think that's not entirely due to Opencast, but by no means not due to the work that they're doing with these, you know, kind of events and the drives to get people inside. But it's also a shift in people's mindsets. You know, the ways of working really have changed, and everybody's seen that throughout all aspects of you know, the working from home communities. So everybody's had to make those changes. So coming into a place where people understand that and are willing to try, you know, just to give it a go to work from home or to do the hybrid working and still try and drive that community to a positive light is just nice.
Thank you very much, Pete. We shall speak a little bit more in a bit. Pete Smith, everyone. Now, we're talking about locations. So, yes, we're here in the headquarters in Newcastle at Holt's Yard, but also, I mean, Pete works an awful lot from home, but so does this lady, Blessing. Hello.
Hello.
Blessing Azigbe, there she is, business analyst, completely different story. You are, where are you right now, Blessing?
I'm in London.
Way, okay. At home, the kids are not going to be making an appearance.
No.
Okay. Now, your story is very different to Pete's, because in this kind of, over the course of probably 5 years, you know, been to Citibank, Fidelity, Metro Bank. You had been there, done that, whipped through, and then, and I love this, you ended up having a chat with a super lovely woman from Opencast, as you described it, and that's when things changed. So tell us more.
Yes, so in my last role, I was contracting. So when I was looking for a position, when I was looking for a new job and a new opportunity, I was approached by Opencast. And straight away, when I started a conversation with this lovely lady, it was just a breath of fresh air. It was something different. And I wasn't looking for a permanent role at the time, but when I was told about what Opencast was about in terms of the career paths and, you know, the excitement of it was so thrilling that I had to be a part of something, and which was Opencast. So I was so thrilled to be part of the company.
Now, being a business analyst, you tried your hand, if you think about those companies, so banking, insurance, life policy, all in-house, but moving to the consultancy element, did you feel nervous about that?
Absolutely. I felt like it was going to be a challenge for me, but a good challenge, something outside of my comfort zone. And as soon as I started, I was set up with actually great, you know, a great team of professionals in there, in what they do. And you know, because we have still that, you know, that culture from Opencast, we're able to sort of work together. And it's, you know, because we work in such an agile environment as well, it was a great way to really see what my team do and, you know, what roles they play in, you know, bringing our project to life. So yes, it was a challenge, but it was a great experience. It is a great experience for me.
You say agile environment. What is it about it? Because there are big firms and people would assume that they would struggle to be agile, but this is no small fish. Opencast is really growing.
Absolutely. I think when I talk about agile, it's working collaboratively together. So in my team, we're able to see what, you know, the product owner does, what the scrum master does, what the developers do, and how we all collectively work together to bring the project to life. And you don't get that in other companies. And so, you know, working in this form of way is really new, innovative. So yes.
You like to take risks.
Yes.
And you like to try something new. Being with big clients, I think you're also looking after some DWP stuff. Yes. How has that felt? Has that been enough for you?
Absolutely. I'm blessed to be in a team with other members from Opencast. So we still have that culture embedded in us where we always support each other. And with our client, they really allow us to, you know, bring our ideas and, you know, into light with what the project is in regards to. So we're able to work very closely and effective to bring the project to life. So in that aspect, it's amazing, yeah.
Your personal skills, do you feel like they're respected, or do you have to kind of meld them in with everybody else?
No, I think they're absolutely respected. Like I said, I have a great team, and we always, lean on each other, work with each other, support each other, encourage each other. And I think that's what Opencast is about, making sure that we're working collaboratively, bringing everyone's ideas together to make sure that we deliver, an amazing project, or make sure that we deliver the deliverables. So in that aspect, no, we are always being heard, and our voice, you always have the room to really showcase your skills. And that's the great thing about Opencast. That's the culture there, allowing us to showcase our skills and then encouraging us to build on that and work on that. We've given us opportunities and having sort of training at the background and opportunities to grow within your field or in different aspects of the team.
Can we talk about that training? Because you are somebody who just likes to push yourself. You're extremely proactive. What have you been able to do? Because you were quite interested in Scrum Master stuff, weren't you?
Yes, and I was quite shocked because when I first started with Opencast, I was still very much in my probational period, and they were still willing to take a chance on me and give me more training when I expressed how much I wanted to know more about Scrum Master and what they really do. And they were willing to, sign that off and give me the training that I needed, high quality training, may I say. And, I was able to pass that successfully. So I actually do have the certification of a Scrum Master. And I think that's amazing for them to just take a chance on me when I was just fairly new to the company. And that's the kind of culture I'm talking about. They have the tools, and they want to really invest in their staffs to bring out the best quality of work.
They paid for that training?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, okay. So there's a chance for you to go to this next step and to change. Is that why you've turned yourself off LinkedIn, Mrs.? Because were you just getting headhunted continually?
I was to the point where we're like, oh, do you want to come here? Do you want to come here? Other consultancy firms. I was like, I'm okay. I'm good where I am. So yeah, I will bring it back up just because it's a good way also to showcase where I work and what I do. But yes.
It's interesting. So you haven't wanted to make that move elsewhere because it's working for you, and this speaks volumes, I believe, as a working mum. How does that fit? You're in London, you've got client bases in London, but you're juggling 2 children. Your husband's also working at home, I believe. So that's quite a juggle.
Absolutely. And I think obviously with the pandemic, there's been new ways of working, but Opencast really does still allow us to work from home. However, we do still support our clients. So if our clients do need us to come into, the workspace, we will do. But again, they give us that room to have a real balanced life, family life and work life. And that is amazing. I have worked in loads of other companies, and you don't get that everywhere. So it's such a blessing to have that here.
Are you managing to do school runs?
Absolutely, yes. So I work it with my team. So as long as my team are aware, I have to, do drop-offs in the morning and, pick up my children at 3:30. Me and my husband, we do rotate. They are very flexible and understanding, and we all support each other. So I think that's the most important thing.
But you've got that energy. You were willing in our last chat to work at a weekend. You're willing to uproot the entire young family and move to another part of the country. There was that kind of like dedication and loyalty. So you feel like it's repaid within consultancy.
Absolutely. I think even it's my first time working for a consultancy firm, but I think with Opencast, if they were to tell me, Blessing, we need you in Newcastle, I would move, because they have shown me so much trust and I would do the same to them. So honestly, yes. So
of course you want to move to Newcastle. It's the best place. We'll talk more about that actually in a little bit with our next panelist, who's also been making a move. Can I just ask you about the support that you talked about? Because a lot of people would worry that being a consultant means you're out on a limb, but you have your own little mentor, don't you?
Yes. So when you join Opencast, they do normally, have a mentor or a buddy that you can, always, go to for advice and support. But also my team, actually, they don't know this, but my team in a way are also my mentors, because they're such a great, I think with Opencast, they really go for the best. So I feel like my team are experts and great at what they do. So when I'm looking at our project and when we work together, I'm really, shadowing them, so to speak, and, bouncing off ideas with them. And sort of they are mentoring me, but they don't know that. But yes, they are mentoring me. So, my team, I would say, are my mentor, but I do have a mentor as well within Opencast. So we always talk about career progression, any challenges that I may be facing that I may need support with. And I haven't yet had any sort of challenges that I know that Opencast have not been supported with. But I mean, that help is there. And it's good to know that I have someone I could talk to outside of my team.
Thank you very much, Blessing. We'll join you in just a second. I'm going to bring in our next panelist. Can we say thank you to Blessing, please? The star of the show on the screen, loving it. Okay, that was live from London. Back to Newcastle, and Juan, you're up next. Juan Rodriguez. This open forum's like a little mini festival. We like this. Okay, and yes, I like it. We need to introduce you differently, I understand, because Juan has had a certain promotion. He is now the development practice lead. What does that mean?
Good question. So at Opencast, we have strong beliefs on the way that we deliver value, on the way you do software and development in my instance. And we believe that because of that, well, that's one of the elements why we are so successful. So we treasure that, and we reflect that in our recruitment. So the development practice lead role across, just like the other practice lead roles, it's about ensuring that our communities and our heads of service, plus practice leads, together collaboratively continue doing the amazing work that we're doing, while at the same time keeping sharp with what's new and what's out there. It's about keeping that essence of what we do, keeping it going.
Now, you know what's out there because, well, frankly, you left. You joined, you left, you came back all within a month, which feels like an utterly bizarre story. But at the same time, a lovely thought that you were welcomed back with open arms immediately. What happened?
Absolutely, yes. So this happened now about 4 years ago. The company came across, offered me a next step in what I was doing, which was really, really exciting. I went to Opencast. I explained, look, this is where I am. They acknowledged this is a really good opportunity. So off I went. I got there, and it just, unfortunately, my perception of the role and responsibilities did not align with what was offered at the time. So straight away, within a week, I knew that I wanted to come back to Opencast, and I didn't want it to appear as if I had ever left. So I just gave them a ring, and yeah, they said, yeah, of course, come back. As simple as that.
So you didn't feel that you didn't have your tail between your legs? You didn't feel awkward about that?
Absolutely not, because before I left, there was a conversation with the team, and they acknowledged that it was a very good opportunity for me. So I loved Opencast, but I knew where I was in my career that I wanted to do the next step. I wanted to grow. I've always been giving a lot of importance in my career to keeping that growth going. So that's what I wanted back then. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out to be like that. So I loved it. I loved Opencast. So I felt absolutely fine with giving them a ring and saying, look, this is not working out. What do you reckon? It was quite easy, actually.
We promised an open and honest conversation. We're definitely having one. And that next step has obviously already happened. You came back in as the technical lead for DEFRA. And I'm just thinking, Brexit happening at the same time, this was no mean feat. This was a big job.
It was big job for the fishery industry, an industry that can be quite interesting.
Challenging.
Challenging. But nevertheless, really, really exciting. It's to do with traceability on the fish that is coming in and out of the country and providing that breadcrumb to know where's that fish coming from. So it was quite an interesting role, yeah.
And a major part for the British economy. So having these roles, being in a software company in Newcastle, where you weren't living at the time. So you moved, didn't you? You did come here, you came to try out some other consultancies. What is it that's different about Opencast?
I think we work as a unit, as I said before, and we really believe in the way that we deliver value and we do software development. And we do our absolute best to keep truth to that. When you work, and I've worked with other consultants on client side, you see a mixed match of approaches. That doesn't happen at Opencast. We all know how we do things. And there might be minor differences on the surface, but at a higher level, we're all the same. I think that's kind of what sets us apart.
So value focused, you've got the same mindset there. Something interesting happened with you as well, didn't it? When you were at DEFRA, you ended up doing interviews for another firm. So a big firm came in and said, you know what, we want more people that are like you, Juan. Can you conduct some interviews for us?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so DEFRA, we were working in partnership with Capgemini, and we needed some extra colleagues joining us, and Capgemini asked me, would you like to help us with the recruitment process? And it just went like that. So of course, we open to help, and we did help, yeah.
Was that a bit odd?
It was odd when you look, I don't know, actually, I just took it as part of my job. I'm a consultant, okay? And being a consultant has got many phases. That was just one of them, helping another client, getting people through the door. That's it.
Tell us about some other roles of the consultant. So a little bit more picture around that job.
Okay, for example, the client will always have a perception of the job that needs to be done and how it needs to be done. One of the facets of being a consultant is trying to steer that, because quite often they're wrong on what they think that needs to be done. Not only that, quite often there's not even a problem where they see a problem. So being a consultant is learning to identify that, being truthful and honest, and trying to steer the client towards the right direction.
How do you build the trust then? So if you're being parachuted in, you haven't worked with this client before, and then you're effectively telling them, no, you're wrong. This is how to do it. How do you do that?
It's kind of like gradual steps, little by little, but you need to keep, you have to keep that transparency. I think transparency is what builds trust ultimately, whether if the client likes what you're saying or not. Obviously, there always needs to be a compromise, but that transparency needs to be there at all times. You can't just say, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. Because then if you can't, that trust is gone. So we don't work like that.
You had some lovely phrases when we spoke. A reason for not staying in-house, you said. I wondered whether it was stagnation, but you said you'll develop roots on your feet. You haven't yet, have you?
I haven't, and I don't think I'll ever do that in my career. Yeah, so I think to grow within your career, you need to be selfish. And by that, I mean, you need to pride getting around the right people so that you learn the right thing from the right people. And that's what I've done all the way. If you, as I said to you last time we chat, if you let roots come off your feet, then that's not going to happen because you're going to be stuck in one place. But not only that, which is the most dangerous thing, is going to knock your confidence. And ultimately, when you want to move, it will be hard. Here at Opencast, this consultancy, you learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable, if you know what I mean, which is a really, really important skill to have as a consultant.
What if somebody's watching this right now and is saying, I don't just feel uncomfortable, I feel absolutely terrified. You know, I know where I'm at. I've had enough going on in the last few years. I've had the pandemic, I'm juggling my family, I've got all of this stuff to do. And now you're telling me to keep on moving and keep challenging. It's threatening.
Absolutely, it's really scary. The human beings have got a tremendous capacity to adapt and learn and get used to things. But aside of that, we have lots and lots of support here at Opencast. And if you feel comfortable with something, oh, I'm going on site, I'm not 100% sure about this, there is a ton of people that have been there, they've done it, and they'll more than gladly help you and make you feel confident. That's how you grow. And we make sure that we're on top of that.
So you always have this growth mindset. You always think, yes, there's a lot to do, but we can do this. And to support you within that are the Opencast communities. Can you tell us a little bit more about those and how they work?
Yeah, communities are key within a consultancy because we're a bunch of really talented people, and there is a lot of ideas flying at 100 miles an hour through our communities. We need to capture them. Let them flow all the way up to make sure that what we are doing is right and our way of operating is correct. That's why we have communities, to make sure that we treasure those ideas and they flourish and just look after our people.
So when you talk about communities, how do they actually work if you're not in the same building?
If I'm not
in the same building together, so you haven't got those water cooler moments. You haven't. I mean, we're in a lovely place right now. We've got a lovely, fully catered kitchen, all of this stuff. But actually, you're working from home 80% of the time.
It's not a problem these days. That is just not a problem at all. And we've made sure we put measures in place so that it's not a problem. You know, we've got our chats where people will just pop in. We have regular catch-ups, and generally people will just reach out if they feel like they need something. And if they don't, there will be someone. So, for example, we've got peeps that will keep on taps with people. So the measures are in place so that you don't feel that you are on your own in your bedroom working.
You moved to Newcastle. How's that worked out in a broader life way?
It's better weather than in Wigan.
I don't think that's the headline we'll go with. Better weather than Wigan. But how has that worked? Work-life balance and having, you know, colleagues and, you know, that life beyond work.
Yeah. So I used to work in Bolton. And the company that I worked for at the time, I believe they set me in the right path, and then I moved to Newcastle, and it's all just been about building on top of that seed. So yeah, I feel really, really lucky to have moved here. In terms of a work-life balance, it just couldn't get any better. Honestly, it could not get any better. I've got 2 kids, and I can just juggle everything because of the flexibility that Opencast offers. So yeah, could not get any better.
Another happy chappy. Thank you very much. Juan, we'll speak again in just a moment. Juan Rodriguez. Okay, if you've just joined us, you're watching OpenForum, which is from Opencast, a tech consultancy, which, yes, is headquartered here at the wonderful Holt's Yard in Newcastle. The sun is shining outside, but of course we've got other hubs elsewhere in the country and clients, an international client base as well. So to tell us a little bit more about things from just level up, although there's no talk of hierarchy. We'll get Emily Allenton in. Welcome to the stage. Now, Emily is head of the UGC service. The UCD, why am I talking about UGC? It's been a long day. The head of the UCD service. Can you tell us exactly what user-centered design is for anybody who's looking to take that leap into it?
So it's a big question with a kind of long answer, but the short answer is looking at ways that we can build on evidence something, whatever we're building, software, products, anything kind of tangible and intangible, but something that's going to be built based on what the people using it need, and based on evidence that says how they move through a service, how they interact with a product. Are we building something that's really going to be useful and usable by them and for them?
So we'll get onto your personal story in just a bit, but I just want to have a little look at this overarching idea of consultancy and kind of hone in on the day-to-day. So this relationship with the client, this is very different to being in-house, of course. So how would you describe that?
I think of it as like a really long-term relationship. And it sounds really weird, but as kind of the other panelists have said already, it's a long-term kind of building up of trust and a relationship with people. Ultimately, like the clients are just people, the people that we work with on the ground with client work, right through to the people who are making kind of decisions. They're just people. So that's the kind of aspect of consultancy and that high level, what is a consultant, that I think sometimes gets a bit lost. It's a lot of relationship building with actual real people.
And day to day, being in the client's offices, or I don't know how that might have changed since the pandemic, or working from home, or being in headquarters or one of the hubs, if you're going to be in Edinburgh or Leeds or London, there are various options. Do you have a choice about that as a consultant?
Yeah. Yes, our approach is this kind of hybrid approach where it's up to you within the context of your team and your project to work out what's best. So for some people, that is coming into the office every single day. For some people, it's rarely coming into the office. For some people, it's spending a lot of time, in an ideal world, in the olden days, on client sites, kind of embedded with their teams, having those kind of everyday conversations with the people on the client side that you work with. But being a consultant, you need to lead on that. You need to kind of be making those decisions about what's right for you in the context of your project and your client. So it really is, within a boundary, it is kind of up to you to lead on that.
And you mentioned hybrid working. That's nothing new for Opencast, is it? This is something that is very well practiced at this company.
Yeah, I think we've all got a lot better at it recently. But yeah, I mean, kind of that idea of being able to work wherever is best for you, and working with kind of clients all over the country, kind of making that work, technology permitting, rules and legalities permitting. But yeah, I think now we're quite good at it, and I think it's a work in progress, and we're always trying to like refine that, right? And we're always trying to get better at it, and we're always trying to support our clients to get better at it as well, because it's a new world for a lot of them. So yeah, that's definitely something that we are trying really hard to help our clients through as well.
Let's talk about you, because you joined Opencast as part of a team of, am I right, 7 at the launch? Okay, so you'd already been working for small digital design companies. You'd set up all the consultancy arms there, so you had a bit of an idea about what it might be. But did you have any idea about what it's become?
No, I really didn't. Yeah, so we were brought in to kind of set up the UCD department and kind of test the waters a little bit, which is why there were only 7 of us. Like, could we make this work? Could we bring together user-centered design in the context of a traditional kind of software consultancy. Would clients go for it? Would there be kind of enough work for us? And yeah, that's just absolutely like flown and grown and become its own thing. But I think the thing for me was when I joined, this is a story that I always tell, and it sounds, I told you, but it sounds really like fake, but it isn't. It's an actual true story. So when I joined, I didn't really know very much about Opencast and kind of what it would be like on the ground working here. But I'd met quite a lot of people at previous kind of on client site, especially at like places like HMRC from Opencast, and universally, they were the nicest people and always like the best people at their jobs. So that was like the hook for me, because I was like, well, I don't really know how this is going to go. It might be fantastic, but I couldn't get a total sense of like what actually, how would it work? What would be the kind of like day-to-day practicalities? But I was like, well, I'll be surrounded by mint people, like they'll be dead nice. And like, I'll just learn loads from everybody. So yeah.
And when you say that, they were the best at their jobs, was that because they were more experienced? Did you have an older demographic here at Opencast, or were these people who were taking those risks that we talked about with Blessing before?
I don't think it was anything necessarily to do with like your kind of age or experience. Actually, I think it was the approach. So it was people who were really good at what they did, but like really considered about what they did as well. Weren't kind of afraid to ask questions, or just to kind of like thoughtfully like reflect things back. And I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. That's a really I don't know, that was really kind of credible demonstration of knowledge and expertise, I thought.
So you had an open-minded approach, and then people could action on it. Preconceptions of consultancy. One is that you are continually juggling things at work. Is that the case?
I don't think so, not here, but that's what I was told the first time that I came across consultancy as an option for me in my career. I was told, I was like, what is it? What makes it different to what I'm doing now? I can't get my head around it. And I was told, if you love juggling many things at once, you like fingers in many pies, you'll love this. And I was like, no, I hate that. I just want to do like, I want to be really good at something and do it really well, and like kind of advise, support, like consult with someone about it. And I think that's more along the lines of what we do here. Like, I don't do consulting necessarily anymore, but when I was a consultant, it wasn't a matter of kind of juggling multiple projects or anything like that. You were kind of long-term embedded on a project, building up trust, building up kind of expertise with the client. So you got that real like depth of specialism.
So that's very different to, I made a note of another preconception that you had, and I love this, which was dropping in the truth bomb and then flying off. That's what consultants do. But that isn't how you're approaching things.
Yeah, I think, again, that's being on the opposite side. So kind of working in house at places and having consultants drop in, just leaving us with a slide deck and then flying off again. We don't do that, and I'm really glad we don't do that. I think there's a lot more emphasis on kind of consulting by doing and showing rather than telling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And I think this being able to influence the ecosystem of the client, having that power that Pete was talking about. I mean, power sounds like such a large word to use, but I think when you are invested so much in your work and you're spending however many hours a week at it, you want to feel that you've got some long-term influence, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's kind of partly the goal, right? It's that investment, and I think the flip side of that as well is like clients who invest back. So it is a two-way street for sure. Yeah.
You're going to represent, as head of the UCD service, the salary chat. So be prepared to feel awkward, because you ask anybody about changing jobs and other things that they're interested in, and there are so many things on that list. But being British, we're nervous about talking about money. How does Opencast compare? How does it compete with some of the bigger agencies that we've talked about earlier?
I think what we are really kind of keen to do and really clear about is that we don't want to be a kind of a lesser like offer. So we review our salary bands regularly. We do benchmarking against the industry standards, and we check how we are kind of comparing with those other kind of offers. Yeah, I think it's something that we're kind of aware of and always trying to look at, because yeah, it's important. That's why we have a job, right? You need to be paid, and you need to be paid kind of at a good rate for the skill set and the expertise that you have.
So how do you compete with that? Do you have to put it into an overall offer instead of leading on salary? Yeah,
that's a good question. I think like it is partly an overall offer, because we have things like we've got like a shares scheme. So that kind of does make part of the offer, but equally, I think, a lot of the time it is just, where are you in terms of a kind of an overall salary band? What's a fair assessment of your skills, but also like what your kind of needs and wants are as well. I think it can be either, because for some people it's that overall package, right? It's that overall thing of, well, like the work-life balance, or it being commutable, or it being hybrid, not having to be in the office every day, or being close enough that you can be in the office every day. So this sounds like a totally Weasley way of saying it, but I think it is a little bit different for each person, and that will be important, being able to have that kind of personalization around that. Yeah.
And I'm going to bring in the rest of the panel now. Can we say thanks to Emily for the meantime? Emily Allinson. So if we can have Juan and Pete and Emily and Blessing back, Blessing, live from London, appearing at OpenForum here in Newcastle. Actually, you guys are probably going to need a microphone. So do you want to come and take this and you can have a chat? I'm going to go on the little one here. Since poor Emily got thrown in with the salary question, I'm going to turn to Blessing on this, because if you were getting headhunted by all these places, what is it that is tempting you elsewhere or stopping you from leaving Opencast? Is there something there that's holding you? Could be development, if it's not about the money anymore.
The culture at Opencast. So the culture, like Opencast, they are what they say they are. They don't just preach it. And sometimes you get that with companies, other companies. They really are that. They really embody their culture, and you see that, you feel that, and with everyone I've met so far at Opencast, they really are about what they say they are, and it's about the culture here, and that's why I'm not leaving.
Do you guys agree that there isn't that corporate vibe at Opencast? That was what somebody had mentioned, that it's a little bit different.
Yeah, because I think it was me that mentioned it, and I was really worried about that getting bought out by a company that was very corporate, and we saw those changes coming in. You just don't have that Opencast. It feels homely. I'm going to keep saying the same things over and over again, aren't I? But it does. The people are nice, as Emily said. And we do share values, as Juan said. Absolutely.
Yeah, can I bring in something else about the people? Because Emily, you were talking there about having this growth mindset and being able to move forward, but you've got to be proactive, haven't you?
Yeah, I think so. And that's kind of core to really being a good consultant. Like you're always, you're kind of like endlessly curious about everything, including like your own development and what you could get involved with and where the real problems lie. And it's just that endless, curiosity. I think yeah, proactiveness is such a loaded word, really, but I think it's just about kind of having this inner sense of just being a bit nebby, I think.
Nothing wrong with being nebby, that's okay. You're listening to and watching OpenForum. We're talking about the C word, which is consultancy, with Emily, Kwan, Pete, and Blessing. And we've been getting a few questions in as well from people who are engaged in this. How do we manage the multi-vendor challenges in client projects? I think that's one for you, Emily. The multi-vendor challenges.
Yeah, so I assume that is kind of when you've got multiples, you're working alongside multiple people from different places in a kind of, but yeah, in the same team maybe. How do we manage that challenge? I think, well, my point of view, I'd be interested in everyone else's point of view as well, is they're not vendors, they're people. Like the people on the team that you're working with are literally other people with all kind of the complex needs and kind of thoughts and stuff that you would have. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it comes back to what one was saying earlier about you're there to do a job and to kind of just be helpful across the board. But you've been being used to Capgemini. It's just one of those things you do as a good person.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing to add.
Right, I've got a couple more questions here. So how do you fit into organizations and teams in which you're consulting? So I think this is talking about embedding yourselves within the team and where you draw the line. Who wants to answer this?
So it's about, our goal is to place entire teams on client, because ultimately that's how we've got the most influence. But if it's you on your own, it's all about not being like a bull in a china shop. Small steps, gradual steps on what you do, little by little, try and build your influence and then make positive, tangible change. That's how we approach. You don't want to go in and try and change the world, because A, that's gonna be greeted not very nicely, and B, people are not gonna take you serious. So it's about building, your steps gradually.
Blessing's nodding along with that. Does that fit with you as a business analyst, Blessing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
In terms of UCD, here's another one for you, Emily. How do you know when you've done a good job in the land of consultancy?
I think how you know that you've done a good job would be, well, I think it's different for different people, which again is not a good answer. But like on the one hand, there's a huge amount of satisfaction and kind of even like going into kind of well-being that comes from being part of a really cracking team, a really, really good team that's all working together, all kind of respecting each other and drawing on each other's expertise. I loved that, and that that always was a good day for me, where I kind of came away and thought, yeah, we all work together really well. The other side of it, specifically for UCD, is when you kind of make things better for the user and you can kind of see that impact and you're hearing the stories coming back through from how you've impacted people's lives. But, I think between the two of those things, you're going to have a quite good day.
We've got a few more questions coming. Oh, I love these. When you ask numbers, okay, what are the top 3 challenges your clients face? That's a whopper. You've got all of these different clients. Who wants to answer that? Anybody?
Top 3 challenges.
Top 3 challenges. Oh, hands straight in there. Okay.
I don't have an answer, to be honest. I think it's this is what I think is a problem and I want it solved now. And if you can't solve it now, it needs to be solved by this date. But what about if you think that it can be done by that date? Or what about if you think that actually that's not the problem that they have? So it's about trying to deal with that and trying to steer the client along the path that you think is optimal to achieve and deliver value.
I feel like I was in a role play moment there. That was, thank you. Blessing, I think you'd be good to answer that as a business analyst.
I would say, yeah, like what he said, but I would say budgeting as well. That all ties in, I guess, budgeting sometimes. It could be that the client wants something and, you know, there just needs to be a little bit more budget to cover, or time to cover, to deliver, you know, the project within that time scale. So I would say budgeting is one. And I would say, yeah, just timing. You know, sometimes the expectations, if they want something to be delivered, you know, by the ending of this month, it is doable. But if we want to give you the best, perhaps we may need to extend the timing or extend the date sometimes. And that happens everywhere. So as long as, you know, you're reassuring the client that we're giving you the best service, or we're delivering the best on this project, but we just need to extend the timing. Sometimes, you know, timing is one of those things.
Pete, what is your advice for people new to the industry? The question continues, what shall I prioritize? So you're not only working in software, but you're also a therapist for this moment.
I would say critical thinking, just being able to ask why and wanting to learn the answer to why is going to get you so far in the industry of consultancy. It's because it's all about that curiosity, that proactiveness, getting your head into it, getting stuck in, because you don't have to know everything on day one. People always think they have to know everything on day one, but just take some time to learn, to understand why we made the choices we have and what we can do to make that better going forward.
How does Opencast measure its employee engagement? Emily?
So there's a few different ways, but like kind of the one big way is we do, I think, a quarterly kind of company survey around all our employees. It's specifically on that. So we kind of find out from people, and we have a really good take up of that survey. I can't remember the last kind of stats, but you know, it's a significant portion of the company is invested and engaged in taking part even in that survey. But that's one way where we can really find out from people like what their thoughts are, what their kind of pain points are, what they're loving, what they're finding difficult. And apart from that, kind of just regular informal catch-ups on all levels with all kinds of people, and having quite an open door policy, like people can just give you a call and have a chat through with what they're thinking as well.
We have had so many questions. I'm trying to rattle through as many as we can. This one's for you, Blessing. From past experiences in working with consultants, there seems to be a stigma that makes them feel like they have to be careful in what they're doing or saying, even if what they're saying is doing the right thing. How do you empower people to challenge and promote better ways of doing things when working with a client?
That's a good question. Well, I know in Opencast, so we have a community, we have different communities. So if you're unsure about something, or you don't know how to communicate it well, or you feel like it's being questioned, or, you know, you can always come back to the communities, and there's other business analysts within the communities, or other UCD teams that you can liaise with and have that communication with, and perhaps find a way to, you know, to break that barrier. But we have a community here at Opencast that's really been very helpful, even for me. So when I'm not sure about something, and I discuss it with my team, I can go to my community. So
I have experience in business analysis and a little bit of product ownership, all from working in-house. I'm looking to transition to a tech consultancy. What role would you advise I take when joining a tech consultancy firm? Should I start as a business analyst and build my way up to product owner or manager? So once again, you have taken on the role now of career advisor. Blessing, what do you say?
Definitely start as a business analyst, because we're like the little eyes that sees everything first. So I have a great product owner, and, you know, I always just mimic what he's doing, and, you know, I just you know, love to watch him do what he does. So I think when you're a business analyst, you get to see everything from a big scale. So I think always start from that. You're always analyzing, you're always documenting. You're like the bridge between a business and a technical team. So it's always good to start, I think, as a business analyst, and then work your way through different routes. And there's so many ways you can go through there.
I loved your body language there. You loved getting into this. Juan, what do you think is the main difference between being a consultant working within a consultant team at a client's and being a consultant working on their own at a client's?
The main difference is that when you're working on your own, you are Opencast front door for absolutely everything, which is a big responsibility. When you are working within a team, then it's the team as a unit that are the Opencast. So it's quite different, actually, and quite different in the way that you will approach things.
Yeah. Which do you prefer, personally?
Personally, I'd rather work with a team of colleagues from here for Opencast, because I know how we work and things are a lot more straightforward.
Is that the same for you, Pete?
I'd like to say yes, because I feel that's the company line I want to tout. But I like the challenge. I mean, it was one of the beautiful things about my situation coming here is I did get placed alone to kind of build that doorstop way of people getting into where I was in citizen information. And it was a really wonderful challenge and one that went quite well. So I'm happy about it.
And Emily, it's a busy marketplace. You've got tech consultancies competing internationally for clients and for staff. And how is Newcastle managing in that field? There seems to be a bit of a winning formula.
Yeah, I think it is. I think like well, I mean, the big difference in the last couple of years has obviously been that we do have, and we can find consultants all over the place, like all over the UK. So I think it's no longer kind of tied to, although it's great, move to Newcastle, it's lovely, but you don't have to. And I think that's a real kind of big difference where you can feel part of a kind of a local company, but you might not have to live necessarily in the same area.
And you've got hubs now, you've got more hubs as well.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Leeds, London, and we're opening one in Edinburgh, which is, I think, up and running and having a proper launch in July.
Okay, and whereabouts are they in London and Leeds?
That is a really good question.
And one we'll answer at a later date.
Yes. Leeds and London.
We've got loads of questions still coming in. We're going to have to end where we are now, but we will continue this conversation. Thank you to everyone for being part of it. I promise you to meet a panel of great people filled to the brim with useful information and stories. Big thank you to Pete Smith, to Blessing Exigbe, to Juan Rodriguez, and to Emily Allenson. If you're watching live, it would be great if you could answer our short survey about today so we can focus all the future sessions on what you think. This open forum has been recorded, so it's going to be emailed to all the attendees and uploaded as well to Opencast's YouTube channel, so you can come back to it at any time. And we do love to talk, as you can tell, so get in touch with the team about absolutely anything, how we work, the tech we use, support, salaries, anything. Email opendoor@opencastsoftware.com. If you're wondering about a new job as well, there's a range of vacancies across all areas, Emily, aren't there? All
Yes.
areas right now. Opencast continuing to grow. So they're advertised on our website. You'll catch some on our socials too. So come join the team. Thanks again. And from me, Charlie Charlton, good luck with your next exciting step. Actually, don't make it a step, make it a leap. You can do it. Good night.